Welcome back to CryptosRUs. I am George. We're all George. So today, let's talk about Bitcoin's next big move. That's right, the next big move. And it's going to be enormous. And let's talk about Michael Saylor and his new $800 million buy and other things that's going on in the world today. So let's do it. Welcome, guys. Today, the U.S. market is open, and it's kind of mixed. Right now, Bitcoin is a little bit higher than last night, 65.3. So the U.S. market is opening up. It's kind of mixed. NASDAQ is doing well. Dow is not. And there are a couple, well, look at that. Trump media plummets. I didn't even know that's still around. Truth Social. Anyways, couple of things to share. Switzerland makes its second interest cut of the year. So they are definitely trying to ease, because every country basically out there right now is kind of feeling the same with high interest rates, economy slowing down. You know, that's why so many central banks are looking at cutting or cutting already. Bank of England did not, decides to hold its rate until probably August. But we know the ECB did already. Canada did already. Japan, they're doing something else. But, you know, and of course, us in the U.S., Fed Chair Powell, you know, under a lot of pressure to cut. You have a lot of economists that say he's playing with fire at this point. Okay, that he needs to cut rates before things get worse. And you know, so far, the economic data does support this. Even though inflation, right, is still quite high, a lot of the data show that inflation is coming down. But more importantly, all the economic data has been getting worse and worse and worse. If you look at today, jobless claims came in higher than expected. That's not good. Okay. And then you look at some of these, like housing starts, lower than expected. Building permits, lower than expected. Manufacturing index, way lower than expected. So you got a lot of misses. Okay. Which shows that the economy is definitely slowing down. And it's funny because Powell, during his last FOMC meeting, said something along the lines of, I don't get why it's so, like, bearish out there. He didn't say bearish, but he said something like, I don't get why people are so down, or something like that, about the economy. Well, because it is down. I mean, things are not as good as before, right? So that's why rate cut should come, not one. Rate cuts should be coming, because that's the only thing you could do, right? When the economy is suffering, what can you do? You cut rates. You let the money start flowing, right? And since all this inflation data is fudged anyways and showing everything's going down, it's perfect. It's perfect for him to do so. So are we going to get a rate cut soon? Right now, it's anticipated it's going to come in September. But maybe with all the bad data, he's going to change his mind and do a rate cut next month, and then have another one. So later this year, so it'll be up from 1 to 2 again, right? But right now, that is what we're going through. Okay, slowness, staleness, uncertainty, right? That is what we're going through. But you know what? What solves all this? You guys already know the answer. Bitcoin solves this, okay? This is why we have Bitcoin. Because Bitcoin was created by people, or a person, Satoshi, that kind of understood that you can't really trust any of these central bankers. You can't really trust the Fed to help you preserve your wealth, because they're going to keep on applying monetary easing or tightening and all the stuff with rates, all the shenanigans, right? Bottom line, they're not doing much. Inflation continues to rob you of your buying power year over year over year over year, and you can't trust fiat. Why would you hold on to something that the government can print unlimited amount of? Okay, that's why we have Bitcoin. That's why we have it. And you know what? What's funny about that is right now there are an insane amount of shorters that does not believe that or only cares about short-term price movement, one of the two. But there are an insane amount of shorters right now trying to suppress Bitcoin. I like to remind you guys, just 2 weeks ago, less than 2 weeks ago, Bitcoin was at 72,000. Okay? And right now, yes, we're stuck at like 65,000, but still, things can move very quickly. I can't imagine the confidence that these shorters have. Right now, just to get back to 70,000, which could come in like an hour, there is $1.7 billion worth of short positions. 1.7 billion. Just to get back to 70, getting back to 72 is probably 4 or 5 billion. These guys are all playing with fire. They're all looking to get liquidated because we know Bitcoin moves very, very quickly, suddenly, unexpectedly, and we could be at 70K in an hour. I just can't believe how many shorts there are right now that are piling up. But for us who are long on Bitcoin, this is a great thing. I'm waiting for them to get liquidated. I'm waiting for the short squeezes to drive us to a new high, which is coming. It's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when, and it is going to come. Now, something else that's fantastic for Bitcoin is this. Miner reserves drops to 14-year low. 14-year low. Going back to 2010. That's almost to the very beginning. Bitcoin was released in 2009, and miner reserves are back down to February of 2010. Take a second to think about that. Now, I can only speculate why this has happened. There's two reasons. Number one, some of these miners are selling because this halving event has been very tough on them. Number one. Number two, they have sold such an enormous amount to the ETF, right? The $80 billion that's in Bitcoin ETFs, where did that come from? Not all of it from Coinbase and Kraken. I think a lot of it came from the miners too. They are buying directly from the miners. So I think because of these two reasons, the reserves have dropped to 14-year low. That is absolutely crazy. And this also kind of correlates with this. Right now, if you could see on the very right side, long-term holder whales realized profit in USD. There are a lot of selling right now with the old whales. $1.2 billion in the last 2 weeks. But guess who some of the old whales are? Yeah, that's right, the miners, right? So I think the biggest reason why we have been seeing choppiness or slowness, or you could say even the dump that we have seen in the last 2 weeks, probably came from the whales, right? But again, there's different definition. I mean, there's different categories of whales, but more importantly, I think it's the miners. And it makes a whole lot of sense. The smaller miners, they can't compete with the bigger miners. A lot of them are capitulating, meaning they're selling because they have no other choice. It's not profitable for them. And some miners are selling because, of course, they want to expand because the Bitcoin network is not slowing down. It's only getting more difficult. The hash rate continues to go upwards. Difficulties continues to go upwards. So it makes sense. They need to sell to buy more equipment and expand operations. So that's what's happening. But guess what? It has happened before. We have seen periods like this before, and then eventually stops. And guess what happens? The buying continues, and Bitcoin goes higher and forms a new high, like it always does. But I think this is the biggest reason why a lot of people have noted that, well, you know, a couple weeks ago, we had such large amounts of ETF inflows. How come Bitcoin didn't go up? Well, this probably explains it, right? But nevertheless, we will get through it. And like I said many, many, many times, Bitcoin's price really is determined by two things: supply and demand. Like all things, supply and demand. Supply is dropping, like I've been showing you guys, and demand is going up. Okay. Australia now gets a spot Bitcoin ETF. So that's fantastic. Hong Kong has it. Canada has it. US has it. And more countries are looking to list it. Okay. So again, demand is going to surge. It's not going to stop. More and more institutions and public trade companies and retail investors and anyone in between, they are all looking to load up on Bitcoin. So demand is only going to do this. Like the hockey stick. It's like this, and then it's going to go like this straight up to the moon. And demand, and supply, I should say, is going to diminish. There's only so many Bitcoin to go around, right? Especially when you got like Michael Saylor that's treating Bitcoin as if it was a scarce commodity. It is. But he's the only one that kind of really understands it at this point, or at least he's acting like he understands it, because he just continues to buy Bitcoin at an alarming rate. No one else has this kind of urgency. Only Michael Saylor does. He said he was going to raise another $500 million. That became $700 million. And then it became $800 million. So he just raised $800 million not too long ago and immediately purchased almost another 12,000 Bitcoin, okay, for $786 million. Now MicroStrategy holds 226,000 Bitcoin at an average price of 37,000. And he will continue to buy and buy and buy and buy some more, because that's what he does and he understands. Imagine one day when Bitcoin is at $1 million each. That is a lot. What is that? $22 trillion if Bitcoin becomes 1 million? Is that what it is? That would be billion, or 226 trillion. That's crazy. Imagine holding, I can't do the math there, but I'm going to pull out my calculator so I don't look stupid. Let's times that by 1 million. If Bitcoin goes to 1 million, it would be 226 trillion. That's what it is. Trillion with the T. That is insane. Okay. In 10 years or 15 years or even 20 years. I think Saylor was to be around. MicroStrategy could be holding $226 trillion worth of Bitcoin. That's crazy. That is absolutely crazy. Even if it doesn't go to 1 million, which I know for certain it will in time. But let's just say $500,000 by the end of the next cycle, that would still be an astronomical amount. That is still 113 trillion, right? Man, that's nuts. That's nutty to think about. But anyways, my point is Michael Saylor, or billion, I'm sorry. I was going to say that's a nutty amount, trillion. Billion. Anyways, that's a nutty amount. My point is Michael Saylor understands that Bitcoin is a scarce asset, okay? And it is something that you want to accumulate as much as you can while you still can before prices are insane, okay? And it's much cheaper to get it now than later when Bitcoin is 6-figure plus, and then sometime it becomes 7-figure, and sometime it may be 8-figure. It is better to buy now than later. So he will continue to DCA as if this is a very scarce asset with a set supply and can't be manipulated by any entities or governments around the world. Yes. All right, what else is there? Giant Whale bought 6,000 worth of Bitcoin, about 400 million. Okay, that's a lot, and that's not even Michael Saylor. That's someone else that's buying this on OKX and Binance. I mean, this is an enormous whale. Who has $400 million laying around? I mean, Michael Saylor had to offer convertible notes to get 800 million, but this is just someone that has 400 million laying around and just decided to buy on the spot market via the exchanges. That's absolutely insane. I have no idea who that is, but just know that whales, yeah, they're out there and they're accumulating. It's not just Saylor. A lot of mysterious figures are accumulating by the hundreds of millions of dollars. As for the chart, short-term holder realized price. So we're right around there. We're at the point where Bitcoin is looking like it's going to bounce off of the short-term holder realized price, right? Which, if you look at before, pretty accurate. There's been times, of course, we have gone below it, but for the most part, in a bull market, we bounce off of it when we do have some volatility, and we're like right there. Many argue that our pattern still looks like an inverse head and shoulders waiting to break out. Yes, that does look like it. But ultimately, like I said, Bitcoin's price is going to be determined by supply and demand. And demand is going higher, supply is dropping. It's just a matter of time. We do break out and go to the next level, and I do believe that will be 100K by the end of this year. Probably happen before the end of the year. It's coming. It's coming. All right, what else is there? Just a few other little things. Well, a lot of you guys have been asking about AI, right? Fetch, and Singularity, they are going to merge next month. They actually had a really good day yesterday. I believe FET went up like 15-16%. But anyways, as NVIDIA continues to get stronger and as AI becomes hotter, I think these crypto companies are going to do well, right? Especially this new one that is going to emerge. But there are other companies in the space that are also infrastructure. And there are others that are kind of doing just the compute, smaller projects. But overall, I don't think AI is going to go away. And it's a big sector in crypto. And I think it will lead the way. Or one of the sectors that will lead the way. Let's just say that. BNB Chain. They activate a hard fork. A lot of people skip out on BNB, but they are enormous. They have just activated their Haber hard fork with BEP 336, which makes layer 2 costs much cheaper, down by 90%. And keep in mind, they still do a ton of burning every single quarter. And BNB has a set supply. So if you're wondering why BNB is so strong, sitting at number 4 at $600, basically at their all-time high, and sitting around $90 billion, that's the reason why. Yeah, that's it. That is pretty much it. Let's do some Q&A. Man, I'm glad I loaded up on NVIDIA options because NVIDIA is not going to stop. NVIDIA's new all-time high. They are the biggest company on the planet, and they are a monopoly. They're probably the only company out there that is a monopoly, that has really no real competition, and they're just doing everything right. Jensen, the CEO, is like kind of like the next Steve Jobs. He has that vibe. He has that swagger. Man, they are just going to go crazy. All right, anyways, that's not crypto related, but let's see. Let me scroll up. Robert Knight, super chat, appreciate it. Someone says this chat is crazy. I don't know why. Have you looked at Daddy Andrew Tate's coin? Yes. And I realized that he doesn't have as much pump power as he thinks, because it is starting to come down big time. And it peaked out around like 300 million, which is impressive, but since then it's been coming down, down, down. Do I hold any Jewel? Yes, I do. Can I make a comeback? I know that I speak with Dreamer all the time. Okay. And I know that he and everyone else, they're not giving up. And they have big plans. And they have this big partnership with Metis too. So I think they're going to continue to do their thing. And they're trying to get better at it. So there's always a chance. Mills says, I've been a sub for 3 years. I made my first comment on a video yesterday about AI. You replied, respect. I'm glad you've been here for 3 years. And AI is going to be the future for sure. Iman says, man, how option call is illegal. I bought 100 calls for 135 NVIDIA. Today up 13K. Congratulations. That's the... Options is basically leverage for stocks. But there's many ways to play options. You could buy calls, you could sell calls, you could buy puts, you could sell puts, and there's so many strategies like straddles and whatever. There's so many different strategies you could do, but like it's the way you gamble. You know, it's how Roaring Kitty made his millions or hundreds of millions just by buying longs. Anyways, you think Kulo is still long-term hold? I hope so. I'm still holding it. You know, I know that the team is not giving up, but right now it's just a bad time for memes, for Polygon, for alts. So, hoping it does come back. Deputy Dog, I'm supposed to be at work, but I'm watching the stream. I'm glad. I'm glad. Just make sure you don't get fired. I mean, Roaring Kitty, you know, he got the community behind him, so he wasn't really gambling, because when you have a community behind you, you know, you can move markets, right? So that was the genius of that. But yeah, based on what Lowe said, if you want to build wealth, you do it with one thing. You don't want to diversify too much. A lot of people have been taught, like, don't put all your eggs in one basket, right? I truly believe that's more like protecting your wealth after you have it. If you don't have your wealth, concentrate on one thing that you're really good at or you really believe in, and stick with that. And if it doesn't work out, you still have time to go into something else. But if that one thing works out, that's how you build your wealth, and then afterwards you diversify. That's what I truly believe in, right? If you're too diversified right off the bat, You're trying to play crypto. You're trying to play stocks. You're trying to do real estate. You're trying to do like 100 different things, let's say, for investing. You're probably not going to build that wealth that you seek. Chris and Sharon asked, Jordan, I'm lucky enough to come into some money in the next month. Do I DCA or lump sum into Bitcoin? Depends on if you have any Bitcoin at all. If you don't, I would definitely start with Bitcoin and then start learning about everything else, right? Like Ethereum and Solana and BNB and some of these other ones I've been talking about, right? But it's always good to start with Bitcoin, and I still advise everyone to have at least 50% of their portfolio in Bitcoin. 50, 25, 25 rule. 50% in Bitcoin, 25% in big caps, and 25% in everything else. What if I eat all my eggs and my basket is empty? Well, I don't know how to comment on that. I guess it's good that you didn't eat your basket too. You, King Mike, are there any other content creator you recommend watching? No, because I don't watch anyone else, so I can't say who's good and who's not. And I don't know why you want to learn things like ICP. I have been talking about TON a lot, but I don't know about ICP. I think you're barking up the wrong tree there. Dirty Degens does not talk about ICP, but they did talk about other promising gems. That's for sure. My portfolio is so bad it doesn't even add up to 100%. That doesn't make any sense. Joseph Lee says, hey, George, this is my first cycle. Just want to say thanks for your awesome information. You're welcome. Don't worry. You know, everyone goes through their first cycle, and it's scary at times. Actually, much of any cycle is scariness, right? Because technically speaking, you have about 2 years, maybe even a little more, 2.5 years of down movement or sideways movement, a lot of volatility. And then you have 1.5 years where it's really good. But even the 1.5 years, you have major drops and dips along the way. It's still scary. So as long as you have the right mindset, continue to hold on DCA the right crypto, you'll do just fine. You just have to have that patience and have the right mindset. Another George asking, why do you say governments print money? They don't. Private banks print money. Government borrows from the private banks. That's 100% wrong. What are you talking about? The Treasury prints money. The U.S. Treasury prints money. Private banks don't print money. JP Morgan can't print money. What are you talking about? Anyways, yeah, I don't know where you're getting your facts from, but you're wrong about that. But regardless, yes, governments print money. The U.S. dollar is printed by the U.S. government, not J.P. Morgan or Bank of America. Where does the euro come from? The ECB, European Central Bank. Where does the sterling come from? Bank of England. It's not private banks that print them. Anyways. Can you check out LCX? what about it? It's like an exchange, right? Next generation cryptocurrency exchange. We build blockchain infrastructure to enable our clients to trade, store, invest in crypto assets market in a regulated, trusted, secure way. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, just say it's a cryptocurrency exchange. I don't know why you have these planets with these yearly rewards. Not really anything to say about that. Money is not actually printed. It's created in a database at the Fed. And it's actually printed. Because they do put in new bills into circulation. Yes, it is printed for sure. Not all of it. Most of it, yes, it's just in a database. They press on the numbers, of course, right? But there's definitely real printing. You get new bills all the time. It's not like there's no new bills coming into circulation. And I understand fractional banking. But that's not printing money. Fractional banking is fractional banking, which is basically leveraging. So I don't know. I think a lot of people are confused about a lot of things. Retro bill. I was a bit alt heavy, but since my dip, my portfolio has fallen to 50% Bitcoin, 50% alts. Too funny. Well, that's good in terms of your portfolio allocation, but it's bad because your alts have taken such a hit. That's not good. So, anyways, I mean, hopefully you could keep it somewhat. I mean, anyways, what I've said, 50, 25, 25 rule, that's just the guidance. You don't have to follow it. Some people are much heavier in alts, right? But then it kind of sucks. It's like there are periods where, holding a lot of alts is like getting kicked in the nuts repeatedly. It hurts. It hurts a lot. Psycho Girl, that's not how it works. Psycho Girl says if a bank has $1,000 in reserves, they can make a 10,000 loan. They have created 9,000 at dinner. That's not how it works. How it works is if they have 1,000 in reserves, what they can do is they could go borrow $10,000 from the Federal Reserve. Okay, so there are systems in place where all the banks can borrow from the Federal Reserve as long as they have reserves. Okay, so they can't just create $9,000 out of thin air. Only the Fed can, okay, by doing what they do. They can, as far as I know, right? Obviously, Congress has to approve and stuff. The stimulus packages and stuff like that. They can, like, technically punch zeros in a computer and get the Treasury to print more or to forgive more or do whatever, right? But like banks can't directly just lend out all this money. There's a system in place, and I'm not even the most familiar with the system, but yeah, private banks can't just be doing that left and right. They can give out loans for sure, but there are requirements and there are rules and there's other things that they have to follow, which just go talk to a banker. I'm sure they'll explain it better than I can. The Federal Reserve is as federal as FedEx. I don't know what that means, but it sounds good. It sounds right. I don't know. Sounds right. Actually, I don't even think there's a fractional reserve requirement because sometime during COVID, it was deemed that the larger banks, I don't know, they have a tier system. I think the tier ones, what they like to call, didn't even need to have a reserve. That they could just give out loans without having reserves at all. So yeah, I don't even know if they ever implement a reserve system back for some of these banks. I know sometime either in 2020 and 2021, they got rid of the reserve system altogether. Yeah, I'll have to look that up again. I don't know if they implemented that. I mean, a lot of stuff was done during COVID time that just seems like it's ridiculous. For example, we used to have a debt ceiling, okay? And we would hit it like every year or every 2 years, so Congress would have to revote to up the debt ceiling. And that's why we always hear about, the government may shut down and stuff because we run out, we basically hit the ceiling and we run out. We can't operate. And they either need to print more or borrow more. But if we have that ceiling, we can't go any higher. So then they got so sick of revoting like every single year, year and a half, then they just voted to not have a debt ceiling, at least until 2025. So right now we have no debt ceiling. That's why we're about to cross 35 trillion and it's like nothing's happening because again, during the COVID time, they just like, screw it. We're sick of voting on this all the time. Let's just remove the debt ceiling altogether. So I don't know. There's a lot of crazy stuff that happened during that time that not a whole lot of people care about. So I don't know. I don't know. It's all gonna lead to bad things. That's what I do know. Started watching Tokyo Vice on HBO last night. So far, pretty good if you're looking for a new show. Tokyo Vice. What is that about? I don't even know. Sounds like it's about Tokyo, but I've been watching The Boys. I watched the first 2 episodes. Did not disappoint. Waiting for the third one. Yeah, I don't know if there's any new shows. I think House of the Dragon came back on HBO, but I haven't watched that yet. I think I'm not gonna watch it until the season's over. Then it'll be better to just watch it all, binge watch it. What do you think made Fat pump 50% after the recent dip? People are loading up. Before the merger? Did it really pump 50%? I guess it did. It never should have gone down that much. Even though it pumped 50%, it's at the same level from a week ago, right? So it never should have gone down that much in the first place. So if you're looking at a month performance, it's still very down. But at least they did a V-shaped recovery, basically, from about a week ago. Dark Matter, I saw that. I didn't watch it, but I saw what it's about. It's like a guy, guy invents a box that go to different parallel universes, and one of the guys stole his identity. One of himself stole his identity, the main character, and he's trying to figure it out or something like that. It sounds interesting. I haven't watched it. Chris SF. George, can Bitcoin reach 300,000 this cycle? I think it can. I think it may be a little aggressive. I think more like 200,000 is a possibility. 300,000 a little high. But there's a chance. If the FOMO really kicks in, sure, there's a chance. Okay, a lot of people said dark matter is good, so I'll have to watch it. I've been watching Your Honor too. At least my wife has on Netflix. It's okay. I think it's okay. It's not as good as I thought. Black Summer on Netflix is good. Yeah. I'm still waiting for more episodes of Black Mirror. Black Mirror, the first few seasons of Black Mirror was so awesome. And then the last season, season 5, was kind of weird. But I'm hoping they make more of that show. That's a really good show. Do we like 0x, 0AI? I have no idea what that is. I can't tell you. You should watch One Piece. My kids are in love with One Piece. They've watched every episode. They have these figures. They love it. I can't get into that. The only anime I like is Dragon Ball, and I've been waiting forever for Dragon Ball Super 2, and I don't know if they're ever going to release it, so that sucks. Super was really good, and that was almost like 6 years ago, 7 years ago. I mean, it's been so long. Black Mirror was so good, but then the COVID reality made the director want to do comedies. Really? So he's doing, or he or she is doing comedies now? That sucks, because Black Mirror is like one of the best shows ever. And what they portrayed are things that can actually happen in the next 10 years. All the augmented reality and the virtual stuff, metaverse stuff that they showcase, those all could come true in the next 10 years. So that's what I loved about it. Most of it was not like 100 years in the future or anything. Like, it's actually things that are relevant now. Josh, I already answered that question. All right, guys. I think that's a wrap. Overall, you know what? Michael Saylor, he's doing it right. He's loading up on Bitcoin while he can, no matter what. The price is up or down, he does not care because he knows this is the best asset to hold. And he's going to accumulate as much as he can while he still can. And that is the right way to do it. All right. Smash it a like. Subscribe to the channel. I'll see you guys tonight, 8:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. All right. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.